Alright guys, so the first thing I want to go over is some, alright guys, so I decided I would go over some JavaScript stuff because I noticed a lot of people were having trouble with it. So the first things I want to go over before I get into basic stuff like basic arithmetic is just some general key points about it. First of all, JavaScript was initially made to be used in the interactive parts of the websites, but now it's made for so much more. You can use it for various mobile applications or desktop applications even. Another thing is, I noticed some people call JavaScript Java. They're two different things. They just have a similar name. There are some similarities, but they are different languages. Java was there before JavaScript, and I believe there was actually a lawsuit about that similar name. I'm not sure. And as I mentioned in the second point, JavaScript can be used for interactive parts of websites, and that includes games and animations. And of course, that can be on the internet or off the internet. It could be a mobile game or on a desktop game that you made in JavaScript. And it can be used in animations. And these are possible thanks to there are actually multiple ways they're possible, but in HTML5 it's actually much more practical now because you can use the canvas tag. Convenient. You can use the canvas tag, which is very helpful for that use. Alright, so the first thing you should do is you should go to any old website, preferably a basic one, or this one, doesn't matter. And this should work in Chromium, and Firefox. Just right click, press Inspect Element, and press Console. Alright, and this should bring up the JavaScript console. Another way of doing it, I believe, is there should be in Chrome in this menu on this side a similar option, but just go to Developer and JavaScript console or Inspector in Firefox, and then press Console. And then you should be able to load the JavaScript console. Isn't that beautiful? Alright. Just basically. Anyways. Now you should notice a blank text area that you can't really type into, and then there on the bottom is a text entry, single line. You actually have multiple lines of shift key, but that doesn't matter right now. So what you should try right now is you should just type in something simple like window.prompt, and then just type in some random text in quotes. Make sure there's no other quotes or. Alright, and you see this prompt right here. And I'll explain what that does, but we're going to use that pretty soon. Now, there's a few things I want to go over, and I'll make this bigger so you guys can see. Oops. Alright, so I want to go over some basic math right now, and first thing I'm going to go over is just some basic arithmetic. So, for example, there's various operations we can do. We can do addition, so do subtraction, multiplication with the asterisk, and division with the forward slash. Alright, so we can do these. We could also do exponents with something called a function that I'll get into later, which is don't worry about that. Oops. Right. Don't worry about that. I'll get into that later. But just try that out. Just basic math. Another thing you should do when you're doing JavaScript is when you're making a new statement, make sure to separate it with a semicolon. A lot of people forget that. And what the semicolon does basically is it tells JavaScript, alright, this statement is done. I'm going to put in another statement, but I don't want you to confuse them, so I'm going to just separate them with a semicolon. Right? These are two separate statements. The reason you're seeing 66 on the bottom and not the... It's not because these are combined. It's actually because it's printing the input from the last statement. But if I got rid of that, it would print the first statement. Alright? Another thing is, if I were to separate this, it would just add them as the same numbers. Even if I were to space it out, I think it would just cause a syntax error. Alright? And it's telling me that semicolon is missing before the statement. Even if I put a new line there, it would still print the last statement. Alright? Alright, these are separate statements, but again, in another JavaScript interpreter, it might even raise an error if I don't do that. Oh, look at that. Alright, if I don't do that. But again, just remember to put a semicolon to separate things, okay? And this is pretty useless right now, because, I mean, if you wanted to do a math problem, you could just type it in on your own and just do it on your own. But that's not the point here, and I'll get to that. Alright, so let's say I wanted to get input from a user, and I wanted to just record that input, and then from that input I want to add, let's say it's a number, I want to add number 6 to, doesn't matter,